round of international breaking updates. What we are picking up as Iran protests have now entered the third month with deadly clashes as Iran has issued a series of death sentences, even as women-led protests over Mahsa Amini's death in custody entered its third month, with clashes that have been reportedly claiming at least 7 lives in the last 2 days, and the toll that did not include 6 people, authorities have been saying, who were killed by gunmen who attacked the protesters and the police later in southwestern province of Khuzestan. Now, what is being said, there was street violence that raged across Iran even as protests has sparked on the September death of Mahsa Amini, and that seems to be intensifying rather on every anniversary as a lethal crackdown that happened in 2019. Iran seems to be on the edge as the Iranian government is handing out death sentences, and the outrage seems to be just spreading across the country over the death of Mahsa Amini, and in a way also challenging the Iranian dispensation.
So those are the latest updates coming in, wherein few persons have been sentenced to death on the charge of enmity against God in connection with the recent anti-government protests in Iran. And the second possessed a knife and a gun, as far as the accused are concerned, who have been accorded the death sentence in the Iran. And human rights activists are, on the other hand, condemning the decision, saying that they were the results of unfair trials. So, of course, it's a serious situation as far as the country is concerned, wherein the government has come down with a crackdown on the protesters. And it has also been said by the human rights that the protesters don't have access to lawyers in the interrogation phase. They are also being subjected to physical and mental torture to give false confessions and are being sentenced on the basis of those confessions. So those are the charges coming in. Shanjoy, roping you on this story. Very good morning. It's a very serious situation, and of course, as far as the death sentence is concerned, the human rights activists have come forward that they have said that these people have been sentenced, they have been given death sentence on the basis of these confessions, and they are also not being given lawyers.
The situation has been going on. These protests have been going on for a while. They have reached a head. Now you find there is a death sentence, and outside there are huge protests that are coming up. Firings are have begun. So if the police are firing protesters about a death sentence to a woman activist, then clearly the situation is a little out of control. Now, how does the Iranian government deal with it? How does even the local government deal with it? That has to be seen, because there is, of course, international pressure, but that doesn't really matter. Here are your people who are protesting against the death sentence or to a woman's rights activist. Now, does that make sense? We will have to see how Iran deals with it, whether the death sentence commuted, whether it becomes just an ordinary prison sentence. These are things that have to be seen. Will these protests actually work? That's the question.
Because 3 months of non-stop protests and violent protests that have been witnessed in Iran, even people who have been sentenced to death on the charges of enmity against God in connection with the recent anti-government protest that seems to be raging on in its third month. For the moment, Shanjoy, thanks very much for joining in. You're watching the Morning News. We'll be back after a short break.